10 creepy true school lockdown stories. 1. The silent intruder. During a routine lockdown drill at a high school in Texas, students and teachers huddled in their classrooms, waiting for the all-clear signal. But something felt off. The intercom system crackled to life, and instead of the principal's voice, there was only silence. Minutes later, a student noticed a figure standing outside the classroom door, peering through the small window. The figure didn't move or speak, it just stared. When the lockdown was lifted, the school was searched, but no intruder was ever found. To this day, no one knows who, or what, was standing outside that door. 2. The whispering hallways at a middle school in Ohio. Students were placed on lockdown after reports of an armed intruder in the building. As they sat in silence, some students began to hear faint whispers coming from the hallway. The whispers grew louder, forming words that no one could understand. Teachers tried to calm the students, but the whispers continued until the lockdown was over. When the school was searched, no intruder was found, and the source of the whispers remains a mystery. 3. The shadow in the gym. During a lockdown at a high school in California, a group of students hiding in the gym noticed a shadow moving across the far wall. At first, they thought it was a trick of the light, but the shadow began to grow larger and more defined. It took the shape of a tall, human-like figure with no face. The students watched in horror as the shadow moved closer, only to vanish when the lockdown was lifted. No explanation was ever found for the strange shadow. 4. The locked bathroom at an elementary school in Florida. A lockdown was initiated after a suspicious person was seen on campus. A teacher and her students hid in a bathroom, locking the door behind them. As they waited, they heard the sound of someone trying to open the door from the outside. The handle jiggled, and then there was silence. When the lockdown ended, they discovered that the bathroom door had been locked from the inside the entire time, and there was no one else in the hallway. 5. The phantom footsteps. During a lockdown at a high school in New York, students hiding in a classroom heard footsteps approaching from the hallway. The footsteps stopped right outside the door, and then they heard the sound of someone trying to open it. The teacher held the door shut, but the handle continued to rattle. When the lockdown was lifted, the hallway was empty, and no one could explain who, or what, had been trying to get in. 6. The disappearing janitor at a middle school in Illinois. A lockdown was called after a janitor reported seeing a masked figure in the building. Students and teachers hid in their classrooms, but some claimed to hear the sound of keys jingling and footsteps moving through the halls. When the lockdown ended, the janitor was nowhere to be found. His keys were discovered on the floor near the school's entrance, but he was never seen again. 7. The face in the window. During a lockdown at a high school in Washington, students hiding in a second-floor classroom noticed a face pressed against the window. The face was pale and expressionless, and it seemed to be staring directly at them. When they alerted the teacher, the face disappeared. After the lockdown, the school was searched, but no one was found on the roof or outside the building. The students who saw the face still refused to talk about what they saw. 8. The cold classroom at an elementary school in Michigan. A lockdown was initiated after reports of an intruder on campus. A group of students hiding in a classroom suddenly felt the temperature drop, as if the room had been plunged into a freezer. Their breath became visible, and they could see frost forming on the windows. When the lockdown ended, the room returned to normal, but no one could explain the sudden cold. Some believe it was the presence of something supernatural. 9. The voice on the intercom. During a lockdown at a high school in Georgia, the intercom system suddenly came to life. Instead of the principal's voice, the students heard a deep, distorted voice repeating the same phrase over and over. "I see you." The voice continued until the lockdown was lifted, and no one could trace its source. Some students claimed the voice sounded like it was coming from inside the classroom, even though the intercom speakers were silent. 10. The vanishing student at a middle school in Pennsylvania. A lockdown was called after a student reported seeing a masked figure in the hallway. As the students hid in their classrooms, one student went missing. His classmates swore he had been with them just moments before, but he was nowhere to be found. When the lockdown ended, the missing student was discovered in the school's basement, sitting in the dark. He had no memory of how he got there and refused to speak about what happened.